today's top boxing news.
Ow! Okay, we'll start with this. Yesterday afternoon, Spain's own Maria Romero took on Italy's own Russian hurricane, Maria Cecchi.
And what was a very disappointing spectacle.
Not because of Mary Romero, you understand, and not even because of the fight's outcome. I went with Maria Cecchi's boxing to perhaps secure the W against the very come-forward and aggressive Mary Romero, and it was Mary that was bossing it. It was Mary that was standing in character, applying pressure, enough of it that Maria Cecchi came apart at the seams. She had no answers, abandoned all her form, and resorted to excessive clinching and dirty tactics. I didn't give Maria Cecchi a round, not so much as a round in this fight.
Yeah, I grossly overestimated Maria Cecchi's abilities.
I guess this is why the quality of competition, the quality of the opponent, is very important in assessing what it is a fighter can really do and where they really are in the greater scheme of things. Maria Cecchi had the kind of resume you'd expect any fighter who's got a pro record of 7 wins, no losses, and no draws. She had the kind of record you'd expect to see, having faced
a lot of journeywomen, girls with losing records.
It's like I said, it's what you would expect to see in an unbeaten up-and-comer's resume. That quality of competition. This was a step up in competition for Maria Cecchi, and needless to say, she didn't pass with flying colors. She failed miserably.
I grossly overestimated what she could do.
Having looked so polished, so refined in her previous outings, it really took the pressure of Mary Romero to expose just how green around the gills.
Mary Romero squeezed it just a bit, just a little bit. She started to come apart at the seams.
You noticed it early on, and very soon it became a hopeless endeavor, a hopeless affair for Maria Cecchi, who had no answers for the come-forward pressure of Mary Romero, aside from excessive holding, excessive clinches, and dirty tactics, brazen ones, that got her a 2-point deduction late in the fight for brazenly fouling Mary Romero with a clash of heads, an intentional one.
It was one of the most embarrassing displays I've seen.
Talk a bunch of piss-poor performances. You know, I thought Chris Eubank Jr. looked piss-poor against George Groves, but this...
Oh, this was 2 times as bad.
Maria Cecchi was never in this fight. She didn't win so much as a minute or a second, not even a second, of this match, and with that, Mary Romero retains the EBU title. Mary Romero of Spain, EBU champion in the women's super bantamweight division. You got to put some respect on her name. She's serious business, and she's collected the unbeaten records. She's collected the O's.
She took Amy Timlin's O.
Yesterday, she took Maria Cecchi.
Maria, who I think shouldn't box on a major platform until she can get it together. That was embarrassing.
It was a genuinely cringe-worthy performance, but as far as Mary, Spain's own Mary Romero, EBU champion, I think she's due a title shot. I think it's about time. I wouldn't mind seeing Mary Romero in there with Mexico's own WBC champion, Yamileth Mercado. Maybe Mayerling Rivas, the reigning WBA champion. Maybe France's own Siegeling Lafarve. Maybe New Zealand's own Sugar Neeks. I think Mary Romero is ready to fight for a major title.
Congratulations to her.
Let's see if they can't get Mary back out there at least 1 or 2 more times this year. Yet another fight that took place yesterday afternoon over there in Scotland. Hannah Rankin's first defense of her WBA and IBO junior middleweight titles against Phoenix's own Alejandra Ayala. An even effort from both combatants at first throughout the first 4 rounds. It was a bit hard to separate them, though, given that
I saw Hannah get through with some looping rights.
And I saw Hannah land 1 or 2 left hooks.
After 4 rounds, I saw it either 4-0, Hannah Rankin, or 3 rounds to 1.
Still in favor of Hannah Rankin, who did have home field advantage after all. Home field advantage, it is a real thing, and in the event of close rounds, very close ones, where it's hard to separate the fighters, it's safe to assume that the
hometown fight is going to get consideration.
A few tight early rounds aside, it seems that as the fight progressed, Hannah Rankin's conditioning is what really secured her the W. Is in the 10th and final round, a very spent Alejandra Ayala laid on those ropes on the receiving end, the business end.
The business end of the boxing bassoonist's fist.
Hannah Rankin unleashed a very violent salvo of punches to Alejandra's head and body, forcing a referee stoppage with less than a minute left on the clock.
I went with Hannah Rankin to win a points decision, and she exceeded my expectations.
Forcing a referee stoppage in what was her first defense of both the WBA and IBO titles. And with that, Hannah Rankin has gotten over this initial hump.
It's onward and upward now to bigger and better things.
Ahead of this fight, we talked about the potential unification match between Hannah Rankin and Natasha Jonas should Hannah successfully defend her WBA and IBO titles. And it seems that that's what we can expect Hannah to do next, potentially in her very next fight.
And what Hannah brings to that fight with Natasha is experience at this weight.
More experience at this weight than Natasha Jonas, more experience at the higher weights overall. Lest we forget, Natasha Jonas, skilled fighter that she might be, she's a naturally smaller fighter that has competed as low as 130 pounds. She's not an according to Hoyle junior middleweight, but she can hang. She's got enough power and skill to do so, though durability, that's gonna have to go to Hannah.
You got all these mutants that think in boxing size don't matter.
I don't know what well they're getting their water from or who convinced them that in this sport size doesn't matter, but it matters a whole lot because that directly speaks to the durability of the fighter. Hannah Rankin being naturally bigger than Natasha Jonas.
Having shared the ring with a lot of girls that are naturally bigger than Natasha Jonas.
No, I don't get the sense that Hannah Rankin is going to crumble off the first hard shot that lands.
Post-fight, Hannah Rankin got right down to business,
stating, "I've got 2 of the belts and I want all 5 of them. Whatever is next will be down to my team. But right now, I'm going to enjoy this moment, a history-making moment." Natasha Jonas, she's got the WBO Super Welterweight title. Marie-Eve Dicaire, she's got the IBF. Currently, Patricia Bergult's got the WBC, so I know all the girls who've got the belts in my division. Shouldn't be too hard to make a fight with one of them happen. After the fight on Friday night, Natasha Jonas tweeted a congratulations to Hannah Rankin, but said she would like the clash to be in her hometown of Liverpool. Natasha Jonas herself stated, now, Dennis Hobson, for the record, I want the fight. Let's make it happen. Congratulations to Team Rankin. You've had your hometown.
You've had your homecoming defense, now let's unify in mine.
Post-fight, Hannah Rankin was quoted as saying, "It would be really fantastic for women's boxing as well, because you don't normally have 2 boxers in the same division in the same country. I want to fight at home in front of my fans. I want to make the Hydro my home. Any Scottish boxer would. It's a fantastic arena, but at the end of the day, everyone knows me. I've fought all over the world. Put the ring up. Let's go."
I don't anticipate there being any problems.
This could very well be the fight, the next fight for both combatants, both champions.
Congratulations to Hannah Rankin.
In the men's junior welterweight division, news broke earlier today by way of the WBA that WBA's Championships Committee, in accordance to the organization's rules, has decided that the super lightweight title, which was held by Scottish Josh Taylor, is now vacant.
That's a bit of a dubious decision.
For those of you out there that might have missed it and haven't been keeping track, a little over a month ago, in March, early March, the WBA issued out an order for Josh Taylor to satisfy his mandatory challenger in Alberto Puello.
And the order came down at a time where we didn't even know if Josh Taylor was going to stay in this division.
The order from the WBA came down in early March and was followed by a subsequent order from the WBC in late April for Josh to satisfy their mandatory challenger in Mexico's own Jose Zapata. Now, obviously, he can't satisfy 2 mandatories for 2 organizations at the same time.
That's the dubious part.
And the WBC's order, that one caused some confusion because based on their press release, you thought that Josh was in the clear with the WBA. They said they had convened with all the presidents of all the alphabet organizations and jointly decided that the WBC's mandatory challenger would be next in the rotation. That doesn't appear to be the case, not if Josh Taylor's being stripped by the WBA.
And that's the dubious part.
It does seem like a bit of a dubious decision by way of the WBA to strip Josh Taylor of that title so abruptly when they supposedly met up with the WBC and the other 2 alphabet organizations' presidents to decide on a rotation. And why are they stripping this guy? Dubious decision, but then again, so was the decision in Josh Taylor's last fight.
The Jack Catterall fight that a lot of people feel he lost.
What the hell else can you say? The WBA is going to WBA. That's just the way it is. That's just the way they are. Boxing scribe Jake Donovan tweeted, WBA has officially declared its 140-pound title vacant. Josh Taylor no longer undisputed champion as a result, but remains lineal WBC, IBF, and WBO champion. Taylor was ordered to next face Alberto Puello, failed to comply with purse bid terms, and is now forced to relinquish the belt. WBA will now order a vacant title fight between Puello and the next highest-ranked contender available, Ismael Barroso, presently ranked at number 2.
What the fuck is Alberto Puello?
I don't know, but if he becomes this division's WBA champion, he will effectively paint a bullseye on his back that a lot of top gunners, they're going to be gunning for. 140 pounds. It ain't no joke. It might not be one of the glamour weights like lightweight or welterweight, middleweight or heavyweight. It's not one of the glamour weights, but it is one of the deepest divisions in boxing.
What about Josh?
Well, I'll be honest with you. You're going to be hard-pressed to find a sympathetic ear or a sympathetic shoulder for the plight of Josh Taylor, who has lost a lot of favor with the fight fans given how he's carried himself after that Jack Catterall fight, that very generous judge's decision that allowed him to leave that fight as the unbeaten, undisputed champion at this weight.
He's not undisputed anymore.
And he's still under orders, not by way of the WBA, not anymore, but by way of the WBC. He's supposed to sort out his situation with his mandatory challenger of Mexico, Jose Zapata, in what is a titillating fight if they can get it over the line, but that's just it. Is Josh Taylor going to stay at 140 pounds? Can he still make that weight healthy? Can he still make it comfortably? Or will the green belt be the next belt that he relinquishes?
Your guess is as good as mine.
Historically, Josh Taylor's had a hard time with southpaws. Southpaws like himself. You know, Jose Zapata, he's a southpaw. And so was Regis Prograis when Josh fought him. So was Jack Catterall in Josh Taylor's last fight. And if you're noticing a pattern, it's because there is an established pattern there. Josh Taylor, the ballsy southpaw, seems to struggle with other southpaws like himself. And that's what Jose Zapata is, who's wanted a title shot for a very long time, and he's been looking the part. He's hungry, knocking guys' blocks off.
Does this fight happen?
I can't tell you, I really can't. It's not like Josh Taylor's got an abundance of options as a welterweight should he decide to move up in weight. If he does, who does he fight?
Terence Crawford doesn't appear to be an option for him, not anymore.
In the back of my mind, I played with the idea that maybe Josh Taylor goes up in weight, maybe sees about having a cash fight with Kell Brook, but when last I checked...
You know, because they both box on Sky Sports.
Boxed, I should say, since Kell Brook has officially called it a career. He's retired. Amir Khan yesterday, he announced his retirement as well. You know, I figured maybe Josh Taylor, who has a scarcity of options as a welterweight and perhaps can't make 140 pounds junior welterweight healthy anymore, maybe he sees about having a cash fight with one of those two boys. I don't know. It's just an idea that I was bouncing around, an idea that's not on the table anymore because both Kell Brook and Amir Khan have officially retired.
So if he were to try to move up in weight, who would he fight?
PBC's still got the run of the place at 147 pounds. Most of the alphabet titles are on their side of the street, and I hardly think they're going to do Josh Taylor, a top-ranked fighter, any favors. The way the situation is, Josh Taylor actually has more options for titillating fights, titillating matchups, interesting ones, as a defending junior welterweight champion as opposed to a welterweight.
He's up Schitt's Creek without a paddle.
Have we really seen the very best of Josh Taylor? Is this it for the Tartan Tornado? Because he seems stuck between a rock and a hard place.
What if he can't make 140 pounds healthy anymore?
You know, Josh, much like Jose Ramirez, he's always been on the much bigger end of the spectrum as far as 140-pound fighters go. It's a wonder he's been able to make that weight all this long. But what if it's starting to catch up to him? And what if he can no longer perform at the level that we saw him compete in the World Boxing Super Series? Have we really seen the best of Josh Taylor? Is this
the beginning of the end?
Questions, question marks hovering over the head of Josh Taylor. What's next for him? Questions that need answers. Finally, another angle of the story we talked about previously here on the channel. Zurdo Ramirez, ahead of his fight, his WBA final eliminator with Dominic Bosel, says, "I've been chasing Bivol for a year.
I want to avenge Canelo's loss for all of Mexico."
What he don't tell you is that he was already offered that fight with Dimitri Bivol a year prior to last year.
Eddie Hearn offered him the fight.
For some reason, people don't want to believe that, people that really don't pay attention, but it's neither here nor there, because should he make it past Dominic Bosel, he's not going to give Dimitri Bivol much of a choice. I feel like a lot of people are appropriating the situation.
They are.
Appropriating Canelo Alvarez's latest loss at the hands of Dimitri Bivol. Oscar's appropriating the situation in order to continually take digs at Eddie Hearn, as if it's Eddie Hearn's fault that Canelo chose to fight Dimitri Bivol. Moreover, as if it's Eddie Hearn's fault that Canelo decided to leave Golden Boy Promotions.
It's not.
People that are clued in know that Canelo Alvarez ain't the kind of fighter to where you tell him what to do. If he ended up fighting Dimitri Bivol, it's because he wanted to fight Dimitri Bivol.
Sam Jones and former world champion Enzo Maccarinelli said as much.
But you don't need them to tell you, and you don't need me to tell you that Canelo Alvarez has reached a point to where he makes his own decisions. He's not the kind of guy you can force an opponent on him.
We've already had that conversation.
That is how Oscar De La Hoya is appropriating this situation. He's using it as an avenue of opportunity to take digs at Eddie Hearn. Zurdo Ramirez is appropriating the situation as an avenue of opportunity to garner himself and his fights the attention and the marquee value that they've been missing. He's making this about avenging the loss for all of Mexico, avenging the loss for Canelo Alvarez, as if him and Canelo Alvarez are bosom buddies, when not that long ago, he was after that guy, the same as anybody else. The way the situation's worked out, It could be very beneficial for Zurdo Ramirez. It very well could be.
Creates a door for him to walk through to where maybe he can become one of the most prominent faces in Mexican boxing.
So Ramirez, his career, he's flown largely under the radar, even way back when he was a reigning champion, an unbeaten one with a lot of fights. Held WBO title in the super middleweight division, an uneventful reign that did next to nothing for his drawing power, his marquee value. But this situation and appropriating it the way he's appropriating it, that's the ticket, because he could very well capture the hearts, minds, and imaginations of those Chicano fight fans, those Mexican fight fans of Mexican descent, to get behind him.
Does next to nothing for his chances against Dimitri.
But the fight is bigger now than it was a little over a year ago. You have to agree that as a result of this, Dimitri Bivol has more of a profile than he ever had before he beat Canelo Alvarez. And Zurdo Ramirez, he emerges as a potential somebody.
It's a good marketing strategy. I can't even fault him for it.
One man's loss is another man's gain. That's what they say, and that very much appears to be the case when it comes to Canelo Alvarez and Zurdo Ramirez. Could Zurdo become the heir apparent to the throne of Mexican boxing here in the United States? I think he can if he actually gets Dimitri in the ring and beats him. The problem is...
Just sell the fight. You can sell the fight.
You sell the fucking fight. The important thing actually is winning the fight. I have to say that Zurdo Ramirez, in spite of his physically imposing size, his stature, the fact that he, unlike Canelo Alvarez, is a natural light heavyweight of very generous proportions. This guy, he's huge.
He's huge, but he ain't the boxer that Canelo Alvarez is.
Or Dimitri, for that matter. He's a very crude brawler, mid-range to inside fighter who just so happens to be a southpaw, though I don't think it really matters much because...
He's not much of a jabber, and he's not the kind of fighter that cuts angles.
But hey, there is a genuine opportunity there for Zurdo to make a big splash.
That much is true.